Welcome to Valor and Virtue. I'm Jim Danielson. With us today is Senior Chief Joe Speranza, United States Navy retired. And we'd like to begin by asking him to tell us a bit about himself and what led you to join the Navy.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm actually pretty pleased I'm getting an interview. That's pretty neat.
Thank you.
My name is, you said my name's Joe Speranza. I'm a retired Navy Senior Chief. I grew up in Pikeville, North Carolina, right outside of Charlotte. Went to South Walkenburg High School, graduated back in 91. Why I joined the Navy? We had, I'm really doing well right now. I can't even think what I was saying in the first place. Wow, it's great. But when I was younger, my father was in the Marine Corps, and I always had uncles in the service, military, as well as serving in the police force in New York City. So we had a family of service for a while. I was always in a theme of service. I wasn't the best kid in high school. I mean, I was probably at the bottom of my class. I graduated 394 out of 420 or something like that. So I was at the bottom of the high school class. But I had two people in high school that really influenced me. My ROTC instructors I had Naval ROTC. It was Marine Master Sergeant Walter Pageant and the Navy Senior Chief Carl Posey. He was a signalman by trade. And they really just showed me, got me on the right path, got me going where I should actually have my head and mind in service to country and just doing things for it. So I knew I wanted to join the military. Everybody in ROTC was all impressed with Master Sergeant Pageant. He was definitely the bulldog, the drill instructor. And I knew definitely that I did not want to be a Marine. And, probably the only one who ever told him to his face, because everybody was like, oh, I'm going to be a Marine. I must be a Marine. And I was like, absolutely. But I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do in the Navy at that point. And it was really Senior Chief Posey. He, at being a signalman, we don't have those rates anymore.
I was going to ask you about that.
We don't have the
Okay. Yeah, all right. So there goes that question.
Yeah. But it was a different type of leadership that he had. It wasn't the barking dog with the knife hand.
You're right, yeah.
Something. He was a quiet leader. He was very assured of himself, no matter what was going on, no matter what changed, whether they changed the rules of the competition right before we got there or whatever it was. He was always calm, cool, and collected. And he was always able to just make adjustments and do things. And I was always sitting there saying, I want to be like that. That's something I want to do. And he was really a big influence for me. And when I went down to the EP station, right before my senior year in high school, Saddam invaded Iraq the first time around, or Kuwait, and we were always watching it on the news. We were just like entranced by it, waiting to see what was going to happen. The air war started in January, and then the day the ground troops went in, I'm at the MEP station signing my paperwork.
Wow.
A bunch of old people. I always said a bunch of old Marines were there. Why don't you join the Corps? And I was like, hey, Grandpa, sit down. But I didn't know what I was doing even then when I went in to join the Navy at that point. I was just there. I knew I wanted to join. They looked at my ASVAB scores, and apparently I tested well on the ASVAB. So they were trying to get me into this, you could be a nuke, you could be on submarines and do all this stuff. And they were all trying to talk me up to that. They said, you just got to take this one little test. And I sat down in this little room to take this test, and I'm looking at it going, oh, this is the stuff I didn't like in chemistry. So, the little Christmas tree design on the little fill-in bubbles. And I walked out of there. They're like, oh, you didn't quite pass. But then they said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I really just want to help people. And they started looking through the stuff, and they ended up putting it down as, hospital foreman. I had no idea what that was or what that was really involved in. But it ended up working out for me. I ended up going to San Diego for boot camp. They gave me a choice. They said,
God, he's going to Great Lakes.
Great Lakes is the only place now for boot camp. But and you had Orlando, you had Great Lakes, and you had San Diego. So they actually gave me a choice. They said, well, you can either go to Great Lakes or you can go to San Diego for boot camp. And I was thinking, hey, Chicago sounds great. We're looking, big city, whatever the deal is. And then they said, well, hey, just remember the Navy's cheap. So wherever you go to boot camp, you're going to Corps school. And I was saying, August.
Yeah, right.
January, February. Hey, you know what? San Diego sounds fantastic. Let's go to San Diego. And, so I ended up starting out my career in Southern California in San Diego. But that's really how I got started. So, I had a good time with that. I ended up doing my first duty station at Balboa Hospital, Naval Medical Center, San Diego.
Oh, wow.
That was my first 2 years in after schooling. And I ended up in Yokosuka, Japan after that, at the Naval Hospital out there, my second.
Did you ever get down to Iwakuni?
Iwakuni itself, no, not Iwakuni. I was down to Sasebo at one point, went out to Atsugi, got to see a few little areas there. You know, take the bullet train back and forth.
Sure, yeah. I never rode on that, but I was on a bike one time and one of those things shot by.
Oh yeah, it's cool. Pretty quick from the outside. From the inside, you know, it looks like a blur, but you know, the outside, yeah, those things move pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever work with Marines?
Yes, I did actually. After my, I was actually thinking just at that point getting out of the Navy. I had an epiphany that I wanted to stay in, but I had just done 2 hospital tours in a row, which is short duty. So the first thing they looked at and they said, well, if you're going to stay in, the first thing you have to do is go to the Marine Corps Command. I was like, okay, so I guess I'm going to a Marine Corps Command. I ended up at the Marine Air Station in El Toro, California. Spent 4 years there. They said, you're going to be there for about 18 months because we're closing down the base. It took 4 years to close down the base. So I was there for a 4-year period of time. And then we finally racked the base and closed it at that point. But yeah, no, it was a good bit there. I really enjoyed the wing. Working with the air wing out there was fantastic. And as soon as I left those 4 years, ended up in Okinawa, Japan, and with the Marines again.
Oh.
So I've been 7 years in a row there. I ended up with medical battalion in Okinawa. So I went to Okinawa, did 3 years of medical battalion. Did a hospital tour after that, right? I stayed in Okinawa at the Naval Hospital in Okinawa. And I came back and did 4 years with 2nd Marine Division here in North Carolina.
I was going to ask you if you ever had East Coast.
So I ended up coming over here, and then I spent the rest of the time pretty much East Coast, bouncing around different commands. So.
And you retired here.
And I retired here after 26 years total.
Now, where you're from is about what, maybe 3 hours from here, something like that?
Actually, 4.5 hours.
Oh,
It's around the opposite side of Charlotte. So,
Oh, okay. By the way, in 1775, Mecklenburg County seceded from the British Empire all by itself.
it did, Deck Day.
Metdeck, yeah.
I still have that little bit of military history stuck in my head. Yeah. Captain Jack, actually. I still sing little running cadence songs to that with Marine.
Really?
Stuff like, hey, Captain Jack, meet me down by the railroad track. Yeah. No, most people don't even know that's actually part of actual history, but he was fed up with everything that was going on, and he actually brought a Declaration of Independence to what ended up being the framers of our Constitution and Declaration. And it was a year earlier, and they didn't want, they were like, no, if you put this type of declaration down, then we're definitely going to be at war with Britain. And, we can't do that. We can't secede or whatever yet. And, basically they told him to go back to Charlotte and go back to his tavern. And that was about as far as he's going to be. But he ended up a year later, when they asked about joining the Continental Army and stuff like that, he basically flipped them off and said, no, he's going to start his own militia. And he did. And what made him famous, most people don't realize, is that Lord Cornwallis himself wrote about him.
Did he really?
He did.
I didn't know that.
He did. He said that the Charlotteans defended their home like a group, or I don't know how to say it, a group of hornets or whatever it was, because they basically fought the British out of Charlotte and then just returned back to their home. They didn't chase them up North Carolina to Virginia, whatever. They just got them out of their area and went right back to their hive. Yeah. Which, people have speculated that back in 1989, when we got our first basketball team in Charlotte,
The Hornet.
they named the Hornets. That might have been a little bit of a correlation there. I don't know if that part is actually there, but that was a little bit of history that came to that. But yeah, Deck Day is still celebrated in May in Charlotte.
Oh, that's good to hear.
May 10th, if I'm not mistaken, 10th or 12th.
Now, the formal sort of adoption of the Articles of Secession was on May 31st, but there is an art that the Meckdeck itself is the 20th.
The 20th, okay. Yeah, I forgot the exact day, but I knew it was May every year. So yeah,
And we're coming up on it.
You are coming up on it, yeah. Pretty close. Yeah. Sorry, as a chief, we're always giving, history lessons in military history, but there's a little bit of it for you.
No, that's, when I was at Parris Island, there was a guy, I thought it was sort of disreputable but clever. He kept purposely failing the Marine Corps history part of the training right at the beginning. And our drill instructor said, look, man, if you can't pass this, you can't stay. And he goes, I'm trying my best, but he wasn't. He was just like, failing it
on purpose.
Yeah. He said he could have done with a senior chief.
That's funny. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty much my beginning stories in a nutshell.
So why'd you decide to stay here?
Oh, stay in Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a beautiful small city.
It is.
It is. I mean, I still call it the town, even though I know we're big enough to be a city of Jacksonville, but it still has that small town feel to it. Bigger than Mayberry, North Carolina, but it's everybody's sort of friendly around here. There's with the military presence being here, everybody around here in the city is either hired military, whether they're veteran, retiree, or a family member of. So there's a lot of common knowledge around here. So everybody knows what you've been through, what people have done. So it's sort of just a relaxing place. It's like family being around here. So I've loved this area. It's economically great. I mean, low prices, we're right on the beach, right up, with several beaches that we can just go to at any given point in time. So it's a nice little quiet area that's really nice.
Yeah, it seems like there's a culture here.
Yeah, that's a nice way to describe it. The culture of it's a military culture. You sort of, everybody knows how to take care of everybody else. You're still, taking care of your grandparents. And my son still gets up and goes down to my mom's house, a block down the road, just to take care of her yard or help her out with things and stuff like that. It's just sort of a community that still always, sticks together. And I sort of like that here.
Yeah.
I figure it's a great place to raise my kids.
Yeah. Many years ago when I was a teenager, my family would come to this area because we would go out to Topsaw.
Okay.
And it was kind of a rough town.
Oh, really?
Back then, a long, long time ago. Yeah, that's the way I experienced it, but I was really young. It's bigger now, much better developed, and really quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're getting little things here and there. I mean, we have decent restaurants up and down. I mean, there's plenty of hotels out here. I mean, we do need like a big sports center or convention center here as well, but we have a small community theater that's here. So there's a lot of little things that we actually have that, can bring people into Jacksonville just to come and see, and things that we can do around locally, which is really nice. And as I said, if you're ever around a beach town, it's great.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the place is still growing. You hear people say that the local government is considering building a sports complex or something like that.
Well, I mean, the first thing you have to do is build infrastructure. I mean, if you remember 8-10 years ago, they started building hotels.
Right.
And we're like, why are we getting all these hotels in here? There's no way that everybody lives here. What do we have? But we have hotels up and down Western Boulevard. And then they started putting restaurants in front of each of those hotels. And now you got the beds, you got the places for people to eat. Now you just need something to draw people in to where they can come here and stay and put those heads in the bed. So that's long-term plans. And I know our county commissioners are doing really well at, doing long-term planning and trying to get things organized. And as mentioned, there is talk about a sports center or a convention center, sharpening things. Yes, with people don't have to go out to Raleigh or Charlotte for their entertainment. So.
Well, it's for me anyway. It's daunting to think of how far you have to drive just to get to 95.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the small roads, it takes an hour to actually get to an interstate. I mean, that's probably the longest part of any trip. Is if you're going to take a trip out of this area, you take the small roads, and it takes an hour to get to the 40, and then once you're on I-40, then at least you're driving somewhere. But yeah, then it takes another 30 minutes for you to get 995 or whatever is going. So it takes a little while.
Now the Marine Corps, at least you listen to Marines talking, and it's not uncommon to hear. First of all, I think that most people have some pretty cool sea stories. But eventually somebody's going to talk about a corpsman, about a Navy corpsman, and how much they admire those people. And could you talk a little bit about just what it is a corpsman does?
Okay. A corpsman is the medical person that actually goes out. The Marine Corps doesn't have any rate or job for medical personnel. Obviously, there's a need for medical personnel if you're in the Marine Corps. So the Navy provides that. And a Navy corpsman is a young enlisted sailor who is attached to Marine Corps units and provides their medical care, whether they're in the field, in a hospital, in garrison, at their barracks, wherever. And they are part of the Marine Corps team. They sort of blend in with the Marines. They start wearing their uniforms just to, be part of whatever the unit is, and they do whatever the Marines do. And they go out there, and their whole job is to save lives.
Do corpsmen in the field carry a weapon?
They do. It's listed by instruction. And I'm sure it's still sitting there. At least it was before when I retired 6 years ago. But by instruction for safety purposes and defense of your patients. That's what they're for.
Oh,
However, if you're in certain areas, good tank would be a nice defensive weapon sometimes too. But yeah, no, we do carry 9mm pistols was our standard issue weapon. And I know in Afghanistan, the MP5 was something that the corpsmen carried as well, because pistols were pretty much ineffective where we were in the mountainsides.
sure, yeah.
But with that, yeah, no, we do have weapons to carry with us, but our job is not offensive. It's really defensive. Our job is to run into the line of fire and pull out the Marines that were wounded there and then, treat them. Obviously, if you need to use your weapon to defend yourself or your patient, you do so. But our first job is to try to get them out of there. And
Right, sure. Now, when do you call it A school where you get trained?
yes, the corpsman, the first school you go to is an A school.
Okay.
Once you get out of boot camp. So for corpsman, our A school is hospital corpsman.
So coming out of A school and into the fleet, I had the training. But when I actually got to a shop and started working on equipment, I'd never seen that before. And so I had some theoretical training, but I had to learn hands-on on the equipment just by doing it. Is that how it would be for a corpsman on a battlefield?
Hopefully not when it gets to the battlefield itself. However, yes, I mean, that's anywhere you go when you have a large organization like the Navy, it's huge. You go to an A school, you get your basic medical training on there. You come out with, your CPR trained, you know how to start IV, you know how to give shots, basic things of medicine and things. But until you actually start getting hands-on, most of the time you'll go to different schools for things. There's always training when it becomes comes to being a corpsman. Before you actually get to a Marine Corps unit, you have to go to field med school to learn different types of trauma injuries.
Okay.
Injuries are a little bit different than, somebody having a heart attack somewhere. So there's different training that can go through depending on where you're going to. Even if you're going to a ship, they have small in-dock training on what you see and different injuries that you'll find on a ship as opposed to what you would see if you were at a hospital or a clinic. So there's different training that you're constantly going through. And even when you get there, there's constant training that corpsmen are required to do every year just to keep up their skills, which, anything even starting an IV is a skill that you can lose if you don't do it after a while. You have to keep practicing to get it done right. And there's a lot of different training and advanced training that you can go through. Nothing prepares you for combat. I mean, first time rounds, you're coming down range and you're down range. That's, a human being reacts how a human being reacts, but we do everything that we can to prepare our young corpsmen to train them enough to react correctly when that actually happens. Because it's natural for people to freeze when things are happening.
Right.
Corpsmen are not supposed to freeze. The corpsmen are supposed to be already in motion, running towards the sound of whatever is needed so they can pull those Marines back out that are in.
I'm not sure how to formulate this as let me say it this way. I think maybe if I'm just thinking about just me, you're there's a wounded Marine. You have to attend to his wound, but there's fighting going on around you.
Yes.
And so that's a discipline of focus, knowing that while you're tending to this wounded Marine, you could get shot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Marine was hit and himself, so he's in range. Therefore, you're in range.
Therefore,
you're still in range.
That's right.
But if he got hit, you're still able to get hit at any time. It's just a focus compartmentalization. You really are just doing nothing but focusing on that Marine right there. You have to block out everything else that's around you until you treat what's there. If you're able to get to some kind of cover, great. But the reality is in combat, you just get down as low as you can and you do what you can to treat the person, get that Marine treated, and hopefully move them to a safer location and go right back out there for the next one. We have to be a little crazy to do this, just like, there's got to be something a little off, but we always said corpsmen are like Marines, just not as mentally stable, I guess.
So. I want to tell, obviously I've never done anything like that, but it sounds to me it weren't sort of interesting, scary, and exciting.
Scary, yeah. It's exciting, yeah. There's an adrenaline rush.
That's what I mean. I mean,
It's not something you're sort of jonesing for, like, you know, you're
no, I get
up for a lacrosse game and you're really excited to go. Nobody's really excited to
No, I-
really do that.
right.
But there is adrenaline that's running through your body, and you do feel the crash later on. I mean, that's just in any emergency type situation, you feel that, you know, loss of adrenaline later. So you know that you obviously were juiced up on adrenaline at some point. But yeah, no, it's scary. I don't know anybody that's gone into battle that wasn't scared.
Right. Sure.
You have to be sort of psychopathic otherwise.
Otherwise, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, no, it's scary going in. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But then again, it's just like you said before, there's a focus for it. You just have to block everything out and just laser focus on what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, and just, you know, trust your training. It's a thing that I used to tell my junior troops, and something I was told to me when I was younger as well too. Just trust your training, and just go and do it. And that's what we did.
Yeah, but it's a maybe esoteric isn't the right word, but it is, I would think, a rare kind of discipline.
I don't know how to answer that. Being somebody that went through it, it's a little hard to answer that question. But I don't know about how rare it is. I'm sure police officers go through that all the time. I'm sure all emergency personnel do as well too, or even doctors and nurses in a hospital.
Yeah, I guess you're comparing.
You know, when you have a patient coming into an emergency room, everything's quick and, you know, it happens right then. You're nice, quiet, calm, and then all of a sudden there's, you know, a body that's bleeding right in front of you.
Right,
You gotta
right.
treat it and move on. So it's not just within the military. I mean, there's a lot of areas that do cover these things. But again, it does take a while. I mean, not everybody handles it. Not everybody does well. I mean, there are people that do break down and have to be shipped off. They mentally can't handle it.
Sure.
So
Now, does the Navy, this is probably an obvious question, but you'd say, okay, if you're in combat, you're shooting. But you're in combat, not shooting.
yes, for the most part, yes, we're not.
But you're still in combat.
Yes.
Even though you're, would you be considered a combatant?
That's been debated over the years. More and more so, yes. They realize that, you know, if you're getting shot at or getting shot, then you are obviously a combatant somewhere. I think I still have my Geneva Convention card from when I was.
Oh, really?
In fact, I might actually still have that somewhere in my wallet, but I think I still have my Geneva Convention card from way back when. I do.
Nice.
Kept in my back wallet way a long time ago. This old thing right here. But I never, in my wildest dream,
That is
ever
cool.
pictured me
Oh,
pulling
see that?
No,
Yeah.
I never in my wildest dream pictured pulling it out and saying, "Please don't shoot me. I'm not."
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, this doesn't stop bullets. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really do much for that. But it's
So there's no kind of generally accepted convention that medical people are targets?
well, I mean, it was signed through the Geneva Convention. That's in my Geneva Convention card. But we don't normally go to war with people that were signing that Geneva Convention. So,
Right, sure, yeah, right. Yeah.
We're not going up against France and Spain right now. I think we're okay. But, you know, the people that signed it normally aren't the people shooting at us. So, yeah, no, that really doesn't mean that much for it. But, you know, if people stopped, if you go back to Vietnam and even beforehand, Korea, you'll see corpsmen, they used to wear these big red crosses on their arms. We call them targets. You know,
Really?
if I see something bright red, I'm shooting at something, I'm going to aim, you know. But yeah, so I don't wear targets when I go out there. Our medical devices are subdued black, just like the Marine Corps' devices are. So we don't look any different than, the Marines. You don't want to get picked out because, you know, if you're, training as a sniper for an enemy, you shoot their officer first, you shoot the radio men, and then you shoot your corpsmen or their medical personnel. So you shoot the person that's hopefully controlling everybody, you get rid of their radio men so they can't call for help, and then you shoot the medical person, and then it's, open fire. You can do whatever you want at that point in time. That's just a standard way of doing it. So I don't like the idea of being in that top 3 somewhere being shot. So I try to make myself look as close to a Marine as possible. So I wasn't a target either.
Yeah, I didn't know that. No, that's actually pretty interesting because, I think most people would think, well, the sniper is snipe.
Yeah.
But they snipe with the schedule.
Yeah. There's an order, which, the most effective order to disrupt the enemy forces. So, take out the ones that are going to hurt you worst first. So
do people take off rank insignias?
Oh yeah, there's nothing that I had that would signify what I was, that I was a corpsman when I was out there. I didn't wear any medical devices to show me that.
Wow.
My Marines knew who I was, so they didn't need to, have my name saying, "Hey." So
Yeah, that's really. Is it true that when you reach a certain rank, you don't go in the field anymore, or a certain age, or
no, it's not age. There is, when you get promoted enough, you normally stay away for it. You're normally in a different job. They don't need 50 chiefs out there.
right? Sure.
I'd rather have 50 junior guys that are carrying the packs that can actually do a lot of the work. So once you're a chief, you normally, unless you're in a specific like a recon unit or something to that effect, or some kind of specialty forces, then you're just more administrative. You're more the one managing all the corpsmen that are there, getting them set out where they need to go, taking care of the aid station that they're going to be bringing these guys back to. So you can promote yourself into more of a leadership position.
Okay. So it sounds like it's true in the military generally, but a few decades of that kind of experience would develop somebody into a particular kind of person, disciplined, focused, obviously courageous. I mean, you'd say you're afraid, okay, but can you remain focused in the middle of? These are qualities that you would think most Americans. It's a question. Would most Americans be able to develop those qualities by, I get out of high school, I go to college, I get a job with a corporation?
I want to say yes. I feel it's inside of everybody there. It depends on how much you want to, or how much you believe in the organization you are. Where's your loyalty lying? We relied heavily on each other. Even before we were in combat, we had to rely on each other in training. We had to rely on each other in combat. So you do get there's a sense of purpose that's involved in there. You're doing something for a higher reason than just yourself. So you can do that. I mean, if you're working for IBM or Bell or wherever, McDonnell Douglas, whatever corporation you're working for, you can develop that as long as you believe in your company more than you believe in yourself. I mean, you can believe in getting your team together and doing something. So you can get past that. I think it's forced on us in the military. I think you're sort of forced into that position very quickly, and you have to rely on others. So you do develop that discipline very quickly.
But it sounds like you're describing a kind of selflessness.
It is to a point. I mean, it is. I don't kind of like saying that about myself.
No, I get it. I understand.
Sort of weird. Sure. No, yeah, I'm selfless, but I did work and I did earn my stuff along the way, but it wasn't completely. I did raise a family, and the military has supported them, but it's it is a little bit of a selfless type act because you are serving your country. I mean, serving is a word. You're serving. I mean, I signed away my life for those years. So every time I re-enlisted, I signed away for that many more years that I was going to serve my country and do what my country asked of me to do.
That was a very good answer. We have here a civic institute named for General Al Gray. Yes, indeed. And we can recognize, and how could you not recognize that there are problems in this country? We have Americans in this country who profess a hatred for this country. And what we would want to say is, okay, the society has problems, but it always has. And it always will, because it has human beings in it, and we're flawed. We know that. But we still want to say, this place is worth defending. And in order to defend it adequately, we really do need citizens who understand that.
We do. And I wish there was a way to get out more information to the general public for it. But if you look at the population of the United States, And then you compare that to everybody that's serving active duty right now in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, throw in the Coast Guard as well too.
Sure.
If you look at the number of people that are in all branches of service and compare it to the number of people that are in our last census that we had in this country, it's less than 1%. Less than 1% of the people of this country at any given point in time are wearing the uniform and protecting the other 99%. Now, I'm proud to say that at one point in time, I was part of that 1% that was serving our country. And it's only a small percentage, but that 1% does that to protect the other 99% and to allow the other 99% to live their lives as they want to, free from wondering about what's happening in the rest of the world. And a good portion of that 99% doesn't really understand. They're living their life, the way everybody wants to live their life, free, relaxed, having a good time, not realizing that the enemy really is at the gates, that the rest of the world out there is not a nice, happy, utopian, happy-go-lucky society, that you need that 1% to guard the gates and guard the walls to protect this country. And I know that recruiting has been a little harder lately for the military, but I don't see it going completely away. There's always going to be, if you only need 1% of the country to protect the rest of it, then I think we're going to continue doing. And it is a little frustrating for people that are aware of what else is out there in the world and realize that, yes, our country has problems, but I've been to numerous countries and numerous continents, and I can tell you that we're not so bad. I mean, we got our problems, but I've been to other places, and we're not doing too bad compared to everybody else. We got our own things that we can take care of, and we have things that we need to fix, and we have things that we need to adjust, and some of them will, more urgent than others that we need to do. But I've been there. I've been everywhere else, and I can sit there and say I would not want to be anywhere else but here. And there's
that's right
in my mind.
Yeah,
that's where but we do need the 1% to continue to stand on the walls and protect the rest of them. And we seem to be pulling that out every year, that we have that 1% that are out there protecting everybody else, so everybody else can live their lives. And I've always, I don't get upset when I see people that are saying whatever. Most of them, I just find them as being ignorant, that as long as they're happy doing whatever it is they're doing, okay, that's what I protected, and that's what I saved them for. So, but, I always said, if you want to thank a service member, then don't just go around saying thank you. Just be the type of person that was worth saving.
That is a very important observation. Because you say, if these young people are going to risk their lives in the defense of this country, this is a question now. Doesn't it, we incur some sort of obligation to be the best we can be, to have the kind of country that justifies their risk?
Yes, I agree 100%. It would, it'd be really nice to see that too.
Yeah,
it'd be really nice to see that too. I stopped watching all mainstream news things years ago just because I didn't want to deal with whatever was, looking at everything that was out there. But so I figured I've got my own problems. I'm here worried about protecting the country. So, no, it would be great if everybody could be the type of American that's worth these young guys going out and doing so. And I think as a whole, we are. I mean, there's pockets and problems everywhere.
Sure.
But, as I said, I'm proud to live in this country, without doubt. And I wouldn't want to live in any other country that's out there right now.
Oh, gosh, I was as a very young man on a Navy base in a different part of the world. And two things when I first saw the kind of life there that struck me right away is, if this is poverty, it doesn't exist at home.
Okay.
And two, I am blessed to have been born in America.
Yes, I think we all are. It's amazing the difference that you can see between the two. And people are constantly immigrating to our country.
Well, that's right. Who says,
see it the other way around.
No, look at migratory patterns.
Yeah, I'm going to say, just watch. People are coming here for a reason.
That's right.
Okay, there is a reason people are coming here. Do we have problems? Absolutely we do. Every place does. You mentioned it earlier, we're all human.
That's right.
Flawed. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
But yes, I've been to those other places where people are coming from, and that's just not a place I would want to be.
That's right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so Would you say a civic institute in this country has an easier job than in some other?
Yes, as long as, yeah, well, that it depends. I mean, like, Macaroni, and some of them are actually part of the overthrows in other countries. So, you're not overthrowing the country. Where, yeah, no, having a place like this, I mean, the Al Gray Civic Institute, if people don't know the story of Al Gray, then they should read up, and they should read up on him as well. A fantastic Marine. A lot of people can model themselves after that. A lot of young Marines should be modeling, especially young officers. But it's having an institute like this that just brings light to the things that the military is doing is fantastic. It's an organization that I really appreciate you guys interviewing me. I'm the first corpsman still that's been interviewed so far for the Dutch Marines. Or
We interviewed another one just a few weeks ago, and he was a very interesting man too. But one of the the goals we've been having is we need to talk with corpsmen, because the corpsmen who work with the Marines are, well, I actually asked you the last time, and you very rightly sort of pushed back a little bit, where you'll hear Marines say, "Corpsmen are Marines."
No. Yeah, no. Well, like I said earlier, I didn't want to be a Marine. I said, I'm not a Marine. I've never wanted to be a Marine, and I don't want to be a Marine.
Mm.
But I always tell people, I say, I respect Marines, and I respect what Marines do, so therefore I did what I did, and I saved as many of their lives as I could. And that's something I've always kept at myself, because I hear that a lot as well, too, especially, and I know what the Marines were trying to do. They were trying to make sure that we felt included as corpsmen within the Marine Corps units, because we're the few Navy guys that are shoved in there. And the Marine Corps, they don't respect anybody in the Navy except for the corpsmen. So, they were trying to make us feel excluded. Oh, you guys are Marines. Oh, I'm still Navy, but, I respect you guys more than anything else. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing this and trying to save lives. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just what it was. But, I love what they're doing. I love the inclusiveness that the Marine Corps has when it comes to their corpsmen and bringing them in, because they do take care of us. I mean, they take care of us because they know that we're going to take care of them.
Right.
So it's a good symbiotic relationship that we have, and it's something I really. And if I had to choose any duty station, it would always be a Marine Corps duty station that I would go to. If I had to pick going to a ship, going to a hospital, going to a clinic, going to the Marines, I would pick the Marine Corps every single time.
It's it's like it's a certain kind of citizenship. Would you say that?
Being with the Marines itself,
and sort of that's, you call it, I think you used the word symbiotic, didn't you? But between the corpsmen and Marine, yeah,
it is. I mean, it's sort of a point of pride. I mean, the Marine Corps is the smallest service, and they're the ones that are in first. Well, Navy SEALs. Just want to throw that out there. But
we can edit that out.
That out there, right? No, but for our amphibious assaults, it's always the Marine Corps in. They're the smallest ones, and they were developed. They weren't the first service, but they're out there now, and they're the first ones that go into these bad situations that we have. So there's a pride for the Marines, and it's something that can never be taken away from any Marine that ever earns. As soon as they earn that Eagle of an Anchor after leaving Paris Island, they are Marines for their lives. That's it. So to be a corpsman and be a part of their units, and be accepted by their unit, and to serve with them, that is a point of pride for corpsmen as well, too. So, yes, there is a huge amount of pride and sort of citizenship that, I belong to the Marines as well, too. Yes, I'm Fleet Marines, of course, certified as well. So,
well, that's good to hear. It's we sometimes try to make a turn, which I find nebulous at times. Like, okay, you have this experience. How do you apply it or use it to be instructive for our countrymen who have not had that experience, who never were part of the 1%, as you put it? And I'm go ahead.
No. I'm actually curious to think about what you're thinking about as well, too, because that is something that we have a hard time doing, because you can't experience it unless you're actually in her.
That's right.
There's no way, nothing that I can say, no words that I can describe to give you the experience that I had. there's nothing I can say for it.
That's right.
Verbally experience
That's right.
combat. You can't verbally experience that kind of unity. You get a little bit of it when you come to like teams and sports and things like that, but there's, you don't expect to go to a football field and die.
That's right.
I mean, so there's a different level to it as well of the intensity that you take a team sport and you put it, but your life and death in that team sport. If you don't win, you don't go home and, play again next week and try to improve your score. You don't win, you're not coming home. So there's a difference in that, and you can't really explain that in words. You can say it, but, and I'm sure, people are out there are smart enough to understand it. They're just not going to be able to relate to it.
Right.
And I think there's a relation piece that you're not going to. So most of and I'm sure there's statistics on it somewhere that most of the people that are in the military are from families that have had people that were in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of heard the stories, or they've seen the pictures of their grandparents or whomever, from whether World War II, Korea, now I guess grandparents, Vietnam or whatever. Now I'm getting older. They're pretty much going to say Iraq here shortly. Right?
Yeah, right.
We'll get that. I'm getting to that along the age group then, I guess. But they a lot of them come from the same type of background, and they constantly do it. So I don't know if it's sort of, you get those that come in, but I'm sure the statistics will show that most of them have people that are prior service.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, that then we could. I was going to say, we've asked this question a few times, and whenever the question comes up, I'm thinking this is kind of not fair, because how do you answer it?
Like Jonathan.
I was going to ask you, what does those of us who serve in the military, especially who have made careers of it, like you, and have had these intense experiences, that has a way of developing you into a certain kind of human being. And then how do you transfer that to our countrymen? But what if how about if couldn't it work this way? We do things like this, where we present to our countrymen examples of people like you and others who have served, and St. Paul said it at the end of one of the chapters of the 1 Corinthians, and now I'll show you a more excellent way. Examples.
Yeah, I think I got sidetracked when I was initially talking about Al Gray and the Civic Institute, which happens to me a lot. I don't know if it's senioritis or whatever, but I squirrel, I'm going to go that way for a little bit. I need to go back to some of that focus. But what you guys are doing here with the Civic Institute, putting this out, how far out your program reaches, and getting this out, it may inspire somebody to say, hey, I'd like to try something like that. Or maybe that sparked the interest to sit there saying, okay, this would be something to do. You can't really relate the actual experiences, but you can talk about the experiences, and maybe that'll get some young mind somewhere along the way saying, hey, I'd like to actually do something like that. I'd like to be part of that 1%.
Yeah.
That does something, because as I said, there is an amount of pride of being part of that 1%. I was proud that every day that I wore that uniform, every time that I put on the uniform, I felt that pride of service that I was putting it on, knowing that I was part of the 1% that was protecting the rest of the country. So there is a way, if you get the word out, and something a lot of organizations like yours is trying to do, is get the word out to our youth that are out there. There's so many more mediums to get things out on now.
Oh, yeah, right.
Twitter and Twitch and every other streaming service that's out there nowadays. And I only know most of those because of my kids. But, I'm still one of those old guys on Facebook. So, and I don't have the rest of them, but there's a lot of organizations that are trying to get out onto these different platforms and get out to where people can see them, since there's so many forms of media nowadays,
right,
that our kids are watching and looking at. So if we're not giving our own voice out as well, if we're not promoting the military service, then they're not seeing it. And if they're not seeing it, then that 1% is going to get smaller and smaller, and the recruiting is going to keep getting hard. And, you might end up relying on just, okay, the military's guys' kids are the next ones in, because they can't figure out, you can't get the word out to inspire other people. So like I was going to say, at the Civic Institute, and other organizations like that, trying to get the word out, I think is actually massively important. And just trying to recruit our youth for the future to keep our 99% safe.
Yeah, but then, but then you say they're 1% on active duty.
Correct.
But then you have a population of people like you who have retired, but it's not like once you retire, you forget.
No, not all at once, right?
Right, not all at once, a little bit at a time. So you have a wealth of knowledge and experience, lots of, and there's so many of these people here in this town, with this wealth of knowledge and experience that others who haven't had that experience can benefit from. And I guess having conversations like this is one way of helping people benefit from the experience of people like you. So I don't find a question at all.
No, I kind of do a little bit, but here's the problem that runs into as well too. You said I'm here in Jacksonville, and we have a large population of people like me that have retired, and we're here in Jacksonville. We're on the eastern end of North Carolina, surrounded by a big military base. You're probably going to find the same thing in Norfolk, Virginia, around the neighborhood.
Sure.
Or Jacksonville, Florida, or Camp Pendleton, California, or San Diego. So you're going to have those around the military bases because we stay around our own kind, if
right?
Say it that way, because we have that same community, that camaraderie that still extends past, retiring. But just in North Carolina alone, I mean, we're on the coast, we're on the beach, a mountain town, Bryson City. I love that place, by the way. Beautiful town over there.
Where is it?
Where is Bryson City, North Carolina?
Oh,
mountains. They have the Western railroads that go through the mountains and stuff like that, which is really cool. The old steam railroads. Beautiful little town. I didn't see anything about the military when I was there visiting this past year. There's no knowledge of it. It's a separate world. It's part of the protected world that, the 1% protects. But there's no word of anybody there learning about the military coming back or coming and doing something here. So getting the word out to those small towns that are great throughout our entire country, whether they're in Kentucky, Iowa, wherever, to say, hey, we know that you have your little slice of heaven here. This is what it takes to protect it. Is there anybody here that's willing to step up and do so? So I don't know. There's a word out, but yes, we have the wealth of retirees that can also pass that word out, but we're also still surrounding the bases that we were at. We're not out in middle of Iowa or Bryson City or somewhere else. We're here. So we're probably not as effective. We have a huge force that could be effective, I'm guessing, but we're all still in the same location. Everybody here knows about it. So, it's not,
yeah.
We don't have to advertise here. I'm sure the recruiting stations here probably close their doors after a while because they got enough people coming from the bases around here. So, it's probably the best recruiting job in the world for those that are still active duty. Go around the main bases. You'll hit your quotas quick. But, so I don't know. Yes, there's great potential of having a bunch of retirees that could also pass the word and start doing things. But if we're all in the same locations, we're just preaching to the choir. If that's where you were going, that's where I thought you were going. So.
No, that's not where I was going.
Well, it's horrible. I went off.
Well, no. Look, it's every now and again we need to be very articulately reminded of what's staring us right in the face. But we also want, though, for people who don't serve in the military, excuse me, nevertheless to think like this. Okay, I still have an obligation to be the best me I can be wherever I am and contribute to be, whether it's as a husband or a wife, or parent, community member. It's not everybody's, not everybody's attracted to doing, actual service. But at least just being a decent person.
I used to use the phrase a long time now I was in the military, is grow where you're planted.
Yeah.
Where you're planted.
Yeah.
Wherever you end up in life, do the best you can in that spot. Be the best person you can be wherever you are. Whatever job you end up getting into, just be the best at that job. I mean, whatever your job is, doesn't matter how menial a job is or how important your job is, but wherever you happen to be, just be the best of whatever it is that you're doing in that spot.
Yeah.
And even if it's just being, like you said, personally in yourself, just be the best person you can be.
Yeah.
Just do what's right, do the right thing.
One of my favorite writers is a guy named Albert J. Nock, N-O-C-K, who wrote a book about himself called The Memoir of a Superfluous Man.
Okay.
But in the book, he says, if you want to do something good for your society, present it with one improved unit, yourself. Here's how you can improve your society. Improve you.
Yeah. Start with yourself.
Yeah. Which is exactly what you were saying.
No, said it's a good motto wherever it is. Just if you're the best at whatever it is that you're doing, and doesn't mean you're the top guy in the field or whatever it is.
Right.
If you're the best person you can actually be, even if it's just being a good father or a good mother or a good brother or sister, whatever it is, right? Just be the best person that you can be. And that's all you really need. That makes our society better. Because if everybody is just doing good, then, well, there's no bad, right?
Then there's no bad.
There's no bad.
Then we're okay.
If everybody's doing well, then there's no bad. There's no criminal. And then if everybody's doing the best they can.
Yeah. Well, sir, that is a high note to wrap it up on. Thanks for being here, Senior Chief Joe Speranza, American Patriot. Thank you.
Well, that's nice. All right. Well, thank you.